Hello and welcome to another episode of Literary Gladiators, the show where we discuss and debate literature in all of its forms. If it's written work, it's game. Let's meet the panel.
Hi, I'm Larry.
I'm Charlie.
And I'm Josh. And today we are going to be going over a short story from a collection from a great Swedish writer in Stig, Dagerman. We're going to be going over the title story in this collection called Sleet. Stig Dagerman was a multi-purpose writer. He got into journalism for a period of time. He also wrote in various other genres. This in particular has to do with short works. German Autumn was a collection of accounts that he came across during his journalistic days. The discussion starter that I have for this work is: Stig Dagerman was known for writing his fictional works from the perspective of children, and Sleet is a prime example of this aspect, being told by a 9-year-old boy by the name of Arne Berg. He and his family are in poor living conditions and are preparing for a visit from his great-aunt, Maja, from America, when they start to endure sleet. Do you believe Maja is genuine, as is the relations between the rest of the family, or is there an underlying sense of divide?
I'm going to start off by saying with every family, no matter how close, there's always going to be a little bit of a divide in some families. Some kind of little bit of a...
I think there's a great sense of divide, and I think it's because of living conditions.
Of course.
Because Maja is she moved to America at some point and is well-to-do,
right.
And she's coming to visit her relatives who live in poverty.
Right.
Their circumstance has not changed per se.
Well, no, that's not true, right? Their situation has changed dramatically.
Dramatically,
she has been there for 20 years.
For the worse. I mean, they were not doing well when she left, and they're not doing well now.
Well, I don't mean financially, right? Spiritually, they are wounded.
That too, but they don't.
No, that's what this story is about. It's about the spiritual wound. It's not about the financial wound, or whatever it is. It's like.
But they're living in poor living conditions as well.
Yes, and the mother tries to make that the issue of why the aunt would be hesitating to come and visit while she's back from America. But that's not the true reason. The true reason is because of the stain that the mother has left on the family by having this, the child out of wedlock.
They do make point to the fact that the father was never present in the life of the son, so there is that to take into account. But Maja's the one that leaves; the rest of them do not. You have you have the grandparents, because Maja is Gustav, the grandfather's sister. You have Alvar, who I took it that he was his brother, but he's
her brother.
That makes more sense because they were closer in age with one another. Sigrid was the sister, Arne's younger...
No, because she has a different name.
Okay.
She has a different last name.
Then she could be related to...
I don't know if they're related. I think she might be just a girlfriend of...
Alvar, because Arne's a kid.
The younger brother of the mother of...
Yes.
The protagonist.
His name is Alvar.
The mother of the protagonist?
Yes.
So the protagonist is the 9-year-old child?
Correct.
Who has no father?
His name is Arne.
So his uncle has a girlfriend who is at the house.
But
and
she seems very immature, the way that she...
Well, she is engaging in the exact behavior that started this problem in the family. It's a story about sexual sin, is what it is. Because of this act out of wedlock, this child is born a bastard. That is the technical term for what he is.
It is a technical term, yeah.
And the family is greatly shamed, especially the grandfather and the grandmother. They are greatly shamed by the fact that their daughter committed this act. And the grandfather tells his daughter that it's going to happen again. And it does, with her younger brother fornicating with his girlfriend in the barn. That's an interesting dynamic too, is the girlfriend can't stand Arne, but at the same time she's engaging in behavior that will lead to the same thing. So you see this another child born out of wedlock.
Right.
But at the same time, you also have that the whole idea of the issues involving poverty. They live in such poor, they don't even consider what they live in to be a house.
The poverty is really bad. It is an aspect of it. It's an aspect of the conditions that led to this.
But it also depicts, I think this is an ongoing theme in Dagerman's work that pertains to concentrating more on the people that are enduring the poverty and the hunger, and not the political cloud that shadows it.
Well, to me, what the poverty leads to is the fact that their town is not doing well to the point where you've got people sleeping in the barn, coming to sleep in the barn. And I believe in this story, the implication is that one of these bums is Orm's father, and because of the fact that there was the names, right? Or what do you call it? When you
they carve their name.
The names are carved into a panel. Everybody in the family is there. And then one morning, there's a new name added.
That was Palestine?
Palestine. And it was added by this bum, who the grandmother mistakes for Jesus Christ. And I imagine that the reason that she did so was because, first, the name Palestine, so this is somebody saying that they're from the Holy Land. Right. And secondly, because who else would be presumptuous enough to carve their name into this family memorial, starting with the grandmother and grandfather all the way back in the previous century, the mother and the uncle, and then this child, who also has a fascination with etching his name into all over the barn. Like everywhere, he just wants to etch his name.
He's probably, I'm guessing, he witnessed it done before, and some children, they mimic what adults do. I mean, that's something I was always taught.
It's just something. They don't see the concept. They just see, this feels pretty cool. Why don't I try it myself?
It's basically it's equivalent to now a kid writing on the wall, and he's like, no, honey, you don't do that.
It's kind of, that's what people in a relationship they'll do. They'll put the heart, they'll carve the heart in the tree, and they'll put their initials. I think that a lot of this also has to do, that really stuck out to me, pertain to when Maja returned, because all of them have a sense of distaste for someone who
did better.
She did better off. Yeah. She left them. Now she's
coming back.
Yeah, she feels that she can come back and
everything's fine.
She's coming home for the first time to face this great shame that has been visited the family in her absence. But that is why the daughter is so obsessed with getting the grandfather.
But there's a great divide between. At first, the mother said that she didn't even. It wasn't even worth getting it neat and tidy because it wasn't like it was going to mean anything. Because
why bother?
It didn't mean it because she lost the concept of understanding what they were going through. She pretty much tore herself away, and now she's coming back to face it and act like. Maybe she can connect on their level, but she can't.
No, she's not coming there to act like anything. She's coming there to visit her brother. That's what she's coming there to do. And she puts it off as long as she can because she does not want to face the great shame. And the daughter doesn't want to deal with that because she's the cause of the great shame.
But yet the grandfather wants nothing to do with her.
No, the grandfather doesn't know what to say. He's humiliated to the point of silence. He does not know how to address this situation. So the daughter wants to clean him up and make him look all sharp and ready, because what she wants to do is avoid any guilt. She doesn't want to think about the fact that she is the cause of such great shame. So she wants to make this look as presentable as possible, make sure that he's all clean and tidy and has a good shave and everything. And her brother is acting the same way because at the same time he is fornicating in the similar way that his sister, he's doing what he learned from her. So that's the repercussion, that's more repercussion of what she did. And then it's turning the revolution against the father, who unfortunately this happened to. And the thing, like I said earlier, the thing that made it possible was the fact that these tramps are able to just like they must be on some kind of route, they must be near like railroad tracks or something where people or hobos are constantly around.
And that makes me wonder. I mean, we're not all perfect. We all make mistakes. I'm going to flat out say it. We all make a slip up.
Yeah, but
you got to own up to it.
Mistakes have consequences.
Yes, they do. Mistakes do have consequences, and you got to own up to it.
It's often seen within lower class living that you have people engaging in sexual relations out of wedlock, which produce even more. It's
And I think
instead of that idea of
because then it becomes a vicious cycle. Like we see, it spreads, right? Like once something like that enters into the culture of this family, now all of a sudden two people fall prey to it. And then, this boy is going to grow up and what he might pass it along to, because he doesn't even know what it is to be a father, because he never had a father.
Right.
But yeah, it's all a matter
And
of
that happens in my family. Unfortunately, there are people in my family who have had relationships with people who were raised fatherless and then end up with children who are
sexual
fathers.
desire is a natural instinct, though.
Yeah, and needs to be controlled.
Right,
Needs
yes.
to be,
It
yeah,
has a
it's something-
purpose
it does have a purpose.
and a place.
Exactly, and it also is a gift from
Yes,
the
it
man
is.
upstairs.
That's exactly right.
But there's a saying, moderation. But what I was going to say too, I feel terrible for the child because he doesn't have a father,
Right.
and if you don't have a
And
father,
so does the aunt.
yeah, but
And thank God she shows up.
Yeah.
And like gives him somebody to relate to that's not so involved in the day-to-day of his
Yeah.
life. Like just somebody to just let him know, like, you poor kid.
Oh,
It
the
ma-
aunt because she asks if he's crying, and he just says that it's a little bit of sleep.
It's the symbolism of the sleet. It's just like the ugliest weather that you can imagine.
and you can get hurt on sleep too. Apparently,
And
But
just the timing of it, too. The grandfather, he says one thing to the aunt.
If I could just say one other thing too, again, like my heart.
Oh, take care of yourself, we're getting sleep.
Yeah,
That's pretty much what he tells her.
Yeah.
yeah, just probably, and he probably says that to be civil. Just I gotta be somewhat nice, because I got a kid in front of me. Because the way I was raised, you want to do what's best for the child, no matter the circumstances. Because that child may go off to a technical school.
Yeah.
Notice I didn't say college. I may go off to a technical school and learn a trade. May then decide to go to college. I don't know. Or that child may go out into the workforce. We don't know.
We don't know what's going to become of the child. But yeah, the child has dignity. The child's a human being.
Exactly.
It's not his fault that he was born into the
Right. The
circumstances.
child, he does
And
not
he's
know
being,
better.
and if the child
But that
is-
doesn't mean that it's not going to be real hard for him to not have a father.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like I don't have, why are my friends, going out every Sunday and having every weekend? And again, I don't know when this was really written. I read it the other night, and I was
This
half
was
asleep.
written in the late 40s.
So-
or, yeah, it was like
Back then, you had a sense of I don't want to say it, but you had a sense of decorum in a way. Men held doors for women, and things like that. Today, not so. I think I'm not trying to go on a rant. Excuse
Well,
me,
the family unit, right, is been under attack in this country for generations.
Yeah.
They're trying to, through all
When does it
kinds
end?
of ways,
but when does it end?
they want to destroy the family. And chief in the family is the father, and that's their,
Yeah.
without that,
in a traditional
Yeah.
family, but
Yeah.
every family is different.
right?
And
Every
exactly
family is
what I'm
structured differently.
Well, no. I mean, ideally, there's the ideal, and then there's how everything kind of cascades from the ideal. And everybody's situation is going to be different, yeah, but
I wouldn't say necessarily an ideal family has to be anchored by a father.
yes.
I think if it's a traditional two-parent and children, both parents need to be able to anchor the family together.
And
Yes. Well, the father is still the chief, and the mother is under the father, technically. Ideally.
I wouldn't say that. I would say both of them. I think both of them being able to work together.
But that's not
And
traditional. That's not
going-
you can say that, but that's not the traditional. That's not the traditional ideal.
Historically traditional, you have a point. However, the ideal is they do it together.
Well, yes, of course, it's a cooperative thing. It's a
Yes.
team, yes.
yeah, and we also
And
But
be
the
able,
team
that's
has a
where
head.
that's where you make an ideal family is raised. Is
you want what's best for the child, and if that means mom has to work at 7-Eleven or
Right.
Wawa, wherever you live if you don't know what a Wawa is, you're missing it. Like I'm saying, you want those kids to grow up and do better than you, maybe.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's the idea.
and if
But-
that means, like I said, if that means kind of going off the beaten track and taking off, it's like, hey, mom's gonna work a few nights on, every Tuesday and Thursday, mom's gonna work a little bit and come home with some cash for the family. And because what's Dad doing? He's working a full-time job, he's working a part-time job at a factory. I'm just saying. I've
Right,
seen
ideally,
I've seen
ideally,
it.
the father would work and the mother would raise
Stay
the
home
children
and raise the kids.
and
yeah.
educate the kids.
but in an ideal family, they do what it goes based off of their strengths.
Right.
And the world is constantly changing. Everything is constantly changing. So, you know,
but like I said, the family's been under attack, right? So you know these new ideas kind of are the way in which they are attacked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about Dagerman, though, was his. I think this really reflects his messages pertaining to young children in poverty and their view of everything going on and the horrors of what is to come. And I think that this also has to do with the obliviousness that the world casts on people in his and their family circumstances.
Right.
I think one of the best quotes that I saw about Dagerman regarding journalism, it was something to him that it didn't work for him because of they're more concerned about for instance, when it came to hunger, they're more concerned about the hunger strike than they are about the hungry, or the hunger riots over the hungry, or the politics of feeding the hungry as opposed to actually getting the food to them. And he said, as per page 14 of this collection, it was the translator's note by Stephen Hartman. He said, "Journalism is the art of coming too late as early as possible." And he himself wants to prove that we need to strive to engage in the art of coming in time.
Yes, that's very interesting. You know, I am blown away by this piece. I loved it. Mm-hmm. And yes, I think poverty is a part of it, and I think that, you know, like I said, these neighborhoods, I mean, if you look at this country, in the black neighborhoods and what's happened since the 1994 crime bill was passed, and how that kind of took a lot of fathers and put them in prison and caused a generation of black children to grow up without fathers.
Yeah.
That has not helped them overcome poverty at all.
And then what was similar to what you were saying too, there are a lot of people in federal prison who I feel don't belong there. If you commit a crime so heinous, then you go to federal prison. I mean, let's say you didn't pay a few speeding tickets. They send you and let's say you can't afford. You just like, all right, I surrender all my rights. You don't really, I'm not going to go into a tangent, but I'm just going to say this. I feel there are people who are in prison who don't belong there because they were non-violent offenders. And the reason they're there now is because, well, they walked up to the biggest person they could find, whack, 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 30 days in the hole, now it's another 27 years. Things like this have happened. I've seen interviews where people said, yeah, I'm here for tax evasion. Tax evasion is wrong, don't do it. But they're there, all tatted up, all smoking cigarettes, and you wonder, what made that person do that in the first place? Stuff, I don't know, but I'm just saying.
Does the punishment fit the crime? Right?
Exactly. Does the punishment fit the crime? I mean, if you're tax evasion, yeah, everyone's going to pay for it in the end. Just, work on it. Be a better person. Do something, own up to it. Don't do it in the first place, but, you shouldn't be doing 30 years in the hole.
Because, like I said, these things become cycles too, right?
Yeah.
Once this kind of, I could see it in my own family. Like once something happens to violate the family as such, you just see cascading results through generations.
The thing at hand is, if given the proper resources, one has the ability to break that cycle. And I think the sad thing with this family is that they never had that resource. The only thing that they were either too oblivious or they were looking at, what can I get out of this circumstance?
Well, yeah, I mean, in this situation, I think everybody's just kind of minding their own business. Like, there's no talk really about the town or people being oblivious or anything like that. I mean, the aunt comes to visit. I mean, you got to keep in mind, too, that she took a boat, right? Like, this is taking place, I don't think it takes place in the 40s. I'm not sure, but...
Barnes said that he came there in 1933, and you would imagine that was when he was born, because if he came there right upon birth...
What year did you say?
1933.
He said, I'm here for the first time in 1933, and then came Sigrid in 1936. So she probably came when her and Alvar got into the relationship.
Right, so that would make...
So I think that
40s.
1942 then,
No, because it would be 1933, would have been 1936. You figure she probably hasn't been there very long.
Mm-hmm.
So
Depends on how old he was for the first time. So it could be the late 30s. If he came there for the first time when he was, say,
No. Came there, meaning written, etched. That's
Oh.
what she was referring to by coming there for the first time. Is that his name is carved for the first
Okay.
time.
Because they also etched their name into a carrot.
Yeah. That's what starts the whole kind of stream of consciousness about carving.
And that becomes, as we said earlier.
Because she doesn't want his name on the carrot. It's Sigrid, who treats him awful. Pinches him in the throat. They say.
You don't do that to a child. You don't do that to a person. Or anyone. You don't
No.
do that. But there were...
It makes you hope that she was not impregnated in that intercourse that she's having with the mother's brother, because she does not like this kid so much. What might she do to
I think it's
her
going to
own
be.
child?
I don't think she would treat that child as cruelly as she's treating Arn.
One would hope not.
They would hope, but.
But again, there's going to be a lot of pressure to have that taken care of if something were to happen like that, and then that's a whole other ugliness that would come from this. So yeah, the mother's got a lot of guilt that she's not dealing with. It's a real shame. The father comes across in the story. Her father comes across in the story as half senile, like kind of
an angry senile. But
Exactly.
just imagine how long he has had to go through the same thing, because Arn has many years.
9 years.
He's
been
9
going
years.
through
He has a future. He potentially has a future. Gustav, on the other hand, does not. His future's very little.
He's at the
But
end.
he went through. He's been going through that cycle for a very long time.
Maybe. I mean, you don't know exactly when. We know that it's a very poor town now, but it might not necessarily have always been. And we get the point that was their family home too, right? Because she,
If you could call it that.
she remembers sitting in the barn. I mean, they got a barn. They
There's
got
a kitchen
animals.
within the barn, aside
And
from
they got a
that.
house.
But she says they don't see it as really good living conditions, because the mother said that they really can't even call it a home.
Well, no, they can't call it a home, but that could be because of the fact that, again, a home has a father and mother. That's not what that is, really. It's not. The family structure has been kind of torn apart.
But this is nothing unique either.
Well, at the time, you get the feeling, these kinds of things are much more common nowadays than they were then.
Yeah. Back then, the worst thing little Johnny could do was smoke a cigarette and, and then he's got to do detention for a month.
And now, you can get in a lot more trouble than that just on your phone.
There's no privacy. What?
Alrighty then. Final thoughts, anyone?
I agree with Charlie that, my heart breaks for this poor kid and everybody that had to grow up without a father. Like, I'm so blessed. And I think we're all pretty blessed to have both a father and a mother in our lives.
Both parents, grandparents, both sets that have had a great influence and presence in our lives. I've lived to see a good amount of great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, closely knit aunts, uncles, siblings, cousins, even if it's small.
Yeah, so I think it's important to not take that stuff for granted and to
I agree with that.
Yeah, so that would be my final thought. Thank God that I was able to.
Dagerman opens us up to some of a situation of this nature and wants us to develop a greater understanding and an empathy for people in these circumstances
Because
that have a great deal of trouble getting out of them.
Yeah, because like you were talking earlier about the obliviousness, that is true. Now that I think about it, in light of what you just said too, because that is something that happens, and something that a piece like this can show you the humanity, of the little bastard, that might be looked at that way by society at large, because society at large doesn't know how to handle these kinds of situations very well, and it's a very difficult situation. So
because that's what
Maja
could have done once she felt that she was in a position of self-satisfaction or success, where she felt stable. Go back and do her best to help her family out, so that this cycle does not go the way that it's going.
Well, for all we know, that's what this is the beginning of.
It could be, but is it too late?
Maybe for the brother, but maybe not for the little
Hopefully not.
boy, not for Arnold.
No.
And even for Alvar and Sigrid.
You hope not.
you would hope. I mean, they still have an opportunity because they may have one child, but they can
shotgun wedding ideal.
Maybe they can develop into becoming a more
productive,
ideal family.
You know, yeah,
right.
Have more kids, but do so where they're in better circumstances.
Right.
Yeah,
and teach them.
But
teach the children.
Don't just. Yeah,
but we don't know. I don't question the aunt's motives at all. I think she was just there because she knew that this devastating thing happened to her family, and she didn't have to go back at all. She could have just skipped them altogether and not even dealt with it. But
this is before Facebook and Instagram and Twitter.
Right, and it's a major trip, a major undertaking to sail across the Atlantic Ocean to go back to your hometown. You know how many times? I mean, again, the only way that we know that she's well off is because the daughter says so. She doesn't seem so well off. She doesn't, you know what I mean? Like who knows how well off she is?
But the
daughter's just trying to come up with another explanation for why she's only going to come at the end of the trip and not spend the whole time there and everything. And she's the reason. She is the reason. The daughter is the reason, but she doesn't want to face that. So, it's because we're poor. And she's went off to America and made her rich.
But it seems like there's still a sense of divide between Maja's circumstance and their circumstance. Right. And it's depicted.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a sense of divide. I think it comes across mostly toward the father throughout the course of the story, more than Maja, right? There's a divide of the two children of this man who don't want to hear from him about anything, really, is what it seems like.
If you're interested in reading this and short stories from this collection, here is a copy of Sleet Selected Stories by Stig Dagerman. Be sure to join us next time on another episode of Literary Gladiators. For now, keep reading. Hi there, this is Josh, and on the next episode of Literary Gladiators, Casey, Cindy, and I will be discussing Ode to a Nightingale by John Keats. If you like what you see on this channel, please support us on our Patreon, for the money that we make will allow us to provide you, the viewer, with more great content. Thank you, and keep reading.